Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you take attendance, please?
Second,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Leo,
Here.
Lewis,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Verplank,
Here.
Truster.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, all present and accounted for. Are there any agenda changes to be proposed? All right, hearing none, we'll open it up to public comment on agenda items only. If anyone wishes to make a comment, please limit it to 3 minutes. Select unmute from your mic in the Zoom interface and speak your name to be recognized, or press *6 if you're calling in by phone. Anyone wish to make a comment? Just a second here. Okay. Hearing none, then let's move to the agenda. Discussion items. First one is Bailiff Selman Banshell at Wicks Park project. Kirk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have the two reps from our engineering firm here. Just a little bit of background on this. The city council approved a resolution with the David Ballas and Jim Selman Living Trust and accepted $100,000 to construct a outdoor performance area that was identified in the park's master plan. After that process took place, the city council approved a proposal from Fleece and Vandenbrink to kind of get working on this project, and I had that in the packet as well. That was back in February. So the clock is ticking, and I thought it'd be appropriate to have the engineers kind of get this kicked off. The COVID stuff kind of set us back a little bit, but they're here today to kind of start the process with council and get some discussions going. So I believe both of them, I think we have John Moxie and Rick Stout are in attendance. So I will, with your permission, turn it over to John Moxie and let him proceed.
Okay, yes, go ahead, John.
Yeah, thanks, Kirk. And I'm going to be brief because I'm going to turn it over to Rick here pretty quick. But you see the proposal from earlier this year. Obviously, COVID kind of wreaked havoc with our schedule, but we really wanted to, before we get too far into this, I really wanted Rick to hear firsthand some of your thoughts on where we should be going with this, and just start out in a good direction before we jump too far ahead of ourselves. So I'm going to turn it over to Rick. He's going to start with some of the concepts that were put together during the 2015 study, just to kind of foster some discussion, I think, and just kind of get some big picture ideas going.
Okay. Rick.
John, do you know if he's on by phone or through internet?
Oh, I thought I saw him.
Because if he's on by phone, he'll need to hit *6 to unmute himself.
All right, I'm here. I'm sorry. I thought it was #6. That wouldn't unmute me.
No. Hi, Rick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of on by phone. I'm having a problem with the internet connection, but yeah, as John had mentioned, you know, we as part of the park master planning process a few years ago, we prepared a very preliminary, you know, master plan as part of overall just park CIP budgeting. And we talked with Kirk about just kind of circling back and getting people's thoughts and ideas as we go forward. Kirk has the original park master plan PDF, so if he's able to share that with everybody, that's fine. But I think the original discussion was the potential of building some type of pavilion in Wicks Park that would really be kind of a separate structure, say from the potential of a restroom building that may happen in the future. Some of the discussion on both the structures there in Wick Park, the existing restroom building and the existing pavilion, was centering around the American Disability Act issues of access to both of those So in the interest of, I think, long-term phasing and to give more flexibility, I think it was envisioned that those two structures would be separate. But again, we just thought it'd be worth the conversation, to make sure that everybody's still, think along that thought process that, there, I guess, numerous structures of that type. I guess we see a little bit of both. Some are combined, so others are separate. And just wanted to basically re-engage everybody and get your opinions as we start early in this process.
All right. Any discussion? Garnet and then Barry.
Yep, I'm glad to see that we're ready to get moving on this. So I'm fine with moving forward and seeing what you all bring together, and I'm ready to go.
Hey, Barry?
What?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This really kind of throws a wrench in things, but I just got to put it out there. Considering social distancing and what the future might bring, and this is totally up to Jim Solomon about my comment. And I don't want to throw any water on this plan. I do one part, but maybe social distancing pushes us to put the band shell over in Coughlin Park. And it's kind of a bombshell, but I just think about how crowded we are during music in the park. And that's just something I've been thinking about. The other thing I did want to bring up is in this one concept drawing where the band shell is placed is where the coolest tree in Saugatuck is. And I would hate to lose that tree if we keep it at this park. To reposition that, and a lot of you know which tree I'm talking about, but it's right smack dab, and I don't see it in this drawing, so I'd hate to lose that tree.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Agree. Any other comments?
Ken?
Mark?
Yeah, I was distracted a minute during Rick's presentation. Are they going to come to us with some building conceptions and placement of conceptions in the park? Not just this location, the various locations? Is that what he's asking for, some direction from us for?
No, I think everything is, I guess it's, the original master plan was, I think, just to get the discussion going. I think anything is open for discussion. Depending on the size and the scale, I guess we'd like to come back with some ideas, and maybe even your feedback, even on the look and the feel, is it something that's a little more traditional? One of my thoughts was, is there a way to maybe even mimic the original shape or outline of the former Saugatuck Big Pavilion and kind of pull some of that history into it? Or do you go with something a little more modern? There's a lot of different there's things out there as far as sail/fabric structures that are a possibility. I mean, it's virtually limitless. So again, I think your feedback in this early stages, the location, is definitely flexible. I think. We can look and see what we have for existing survey information, which may help pin that tree location down, and then we can obviously look at a couple locations, and again, come back to this group and get some additional feedback.
And my comment, thanks for that feedback. We have to keep in mind, I believe this has to go to the Historical Commission for approval. I believe this is in the historic district. So maybe Cindy can verify that, but so that's something that we have to keep in mind. Two, if we stays at this location, we understand where Barry's coming from, but if it stays at this location, we want to maximize viewership, so to speak, in laying it out. Regardless, I have no preference where it could go in the park or anything like that, but the third item is, I mean, I'd hate to put a lot of money into a restroom a block away from the restroom, when maybe we ought to be thinking about putting a restroom if we build one in another part of town. So those are kind of my comments. I agree with Garnett. Let's go forward with it, but I just think those are a couple things we have to keep in mind.
Chris?
I agree. Let's see what the options out there are. I know that I'm right there with Mark about the view shed. I drove past the park in Holland and they have an open clamshell so that it doesn't block off the view to the water from where that's at. So I think it's a great idea to have a variety of options so that we definitely have something to talk about.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought about that Coughlin Park location that Barry brought up. And I think that's something we need to seriously consider. I'm not sure if our donors would be in favor of that. I think we need to check with them. But it certainly in this day and age offers you much more space if you need to social distance, and much more space even if the crowds were to grow at music in the park and those kinds of things. Jane, you have your hand up? Need to unmute.
Sorry. One of the things that makes Wicks Park the best is the trees. I mean, in Coughlin Park, you're really sitting out in the sun, and there's no option to not sit in the sun. I agree with Barry about that tree. That tree is cool, and I would hate to see us lose that. And I think it's dedicated to Tom Johnson, isn't it?
Maybe.
And you know, so I would like to see that moved over a bit so that maybe it's more square with the parking lot and not in that particular space. But I think Coughlin Park is much more conducive to sitting around and listening to music because of all the shade trees. That's just my opinion. But I would like to see us move forward with this and look at a couple of different concepts. I'm not sure I'm in love with the pavilion concept, but you know, that might be something to consider.
Mr. Mayor?
Chris?
I have one more comment. And I'm not, might be that the clamshell could switch to the other way, because we got a dead tree over by the train ferry. I noticed that when we were driving around the other day. There's a dead tree there. So maybe we just kind of rotate so that the clamshell would be, you'd be looking the other way.
Sure.
Just again, some options will be good to see.
Okay, anyone else? Jane?
Although it's nice to have that parking lot for bands to unload in. So that's just another thought.
Barry?
Yeah, just one historic perspective, and this was actually brought up to me by a longtime resident. The current band shell was actually erected by the greater community for the bicentennial of the United States. And at that time, we were a village and part of the township. So a lot of people contributed to that band shell, which is getting old and worn out, but just a historical perspective on that, you know, for what it's worth. I mean, you could make it accessible and put a lot of money into it and fix it up. You know, I don't think that's going to get any legs, but that's just historical perspective.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I got a quick comment I'd like to make. This is Kurt.
Yes, Kurt.
One thing we could do if we're worried about the tree is I think it'd be good to have our arborists come in and take a look at that tree, because as with everything in life, there's a lifespan on things. So let's take a look at the tree to make sure that we're not, you know, if we got another 80 years of that tree, it's a different story. But if it's maybe it only has 5 years left, that might be something to consider. So I'll get in touch with our arborist and have them take a look at that just so we can get a lifespan estimate on that. The other thing too is on the screen, I have Fleece and Vandenbrink put together some renderings of if that gazebo, if we keep the gazebo there, we're going to have to do quite a bit of substantial work to it. Not to mention just structural work, but we're also going to have to make it ADA compliant, and it's going to change the look of that whole structure down there. So I just want everyone to be aware of that. But the issue really is that there's going to have to be work done in that park to some degree. So just keep that in mind as well. But I'll get some information about the tree, and that might help in your decision-making process.
Thank you, Kurt.
Yep. Holly?
Thank you, Mayor. I spoke with Jim Solomon several times today, and I'd like to see us continue looking at a new plan for the band shell. I like what the engineer has done, and I'd love to see us continue to look at something that's as charming as the pavilion. It gives people sort of a social media moment and mirrors some of the architecture in town, maybe a Victorian or a classical structure. But I think modern might be cool too. I'd be interested in looking at that. And I think we should proceed.
Did Jim happen to speak to the idea of Coughlin Park as opposed to Wicks?
I think, Mayor, we should proceed with the way the gift is structured.
Any other discussion? All right, well, I think the sense of council is that we do want to move forward with this and look to Fleece and Vandenbrink to bring forth some ideas that we can react to and to get this thing going.
Good discussion. Thanks, everybody. This is helpful.
Okay.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you very much.
And Rick.
All righty, take care.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Mr. Mayor,
Chris.
can you give us a time frame when we might be able to see some renderings for Wicks Park?
Rick.
I think we'd like to try to come back, definitely be in the next 30 days or so. So we'd like to keep the process moving fairly quickly. What I'd like to do is, I'm assuming everybody can hear me, is I'd like to, you know, we can come up with some basics and kind of pin this down, but also talk to some of the fabricators in there's some in Holland area, a couple that specialize in structures, and get some of their feedback, and we can come back with some ideas.
My second comment is, and this kind of goes to Cindy, I know that the Historic District meets the first Thursday of the month, which would be coming up in about 2 weeks. And I think it would be beneficial to get that discussion instead of having to wait till the following month if it needs to go before the Historic District.
Cindy, what do you think?
Really, today is the deadline to file for that meeting. I could probably extend it a little bit, but I'm kind of extended as it is.
But you feel it's going to have to go before the HDC?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
And if we
Chris,
had something to show them and let them know it's coming.
Right. So then we would be looking at getting the renderings, and then it would be the first weekend. I'm trying to just get a time frame.
I think it's August 6th.
September. Yeah. Good. That's moving it along.
Yeah. Okay. All right, then let's move along to the next item, which is fiscal year 2021 city projects. Kirk, background.
Yes, I had one of the council members asked for me to put this on the agenda for discussion. And the council just adopted the fiscal year budget at the end of June. So we're into July now. Some of the projects we've already started on, but what I did is I kind of took out the priority projects that were listed in the budget, and you can see them in the agenda item report. The big ones obviously are, we got some big capital improvement projects. Park Street resurfacing, that is still on the docket, and we still have that scheduled. We still have John Moxie on, so he might be able to chime in too, but that's planned for this fall, and everything is still on track. Is that correct, John, with that project?
Yes, we're hearing third week of September roughly. They want to start that, and it's probably about a month process.
Okay, so that's ongoing right now. And again, I'd like to get as soon as I can get a clerk hired and some other really priority issues off the table here. I want to get diving into that because I got to get the residents involved in this project or we're going to have major problems. So I want to get some pre-construction meetings and get information out to people. We can do it via Zoom, which is great because I can probably get everyone to attend that way. So I want to get working on that. We got the Mill Street asphalt millings. That's a project that's kind of coincides with this Park Street project. So that will happen at the same time. The Campbell Road road reconstruction, we submitted a grant for that. And Mr. Moxie has notified me that MDOT's going to be, we were hoping to get a decision pretty quick, but what was the last notification you got from them, John?
They said they hope to have announcements out middle of August, but it could roll into their next fiscal year, which starts October 1st. I think either way, we're hoping to do this project the next construction season.
Right. So we're still on, so that fits into our schedule. So that's not necessarily a big issue there. I do know that Douglas wants to accomplish this project as well. If we don't get the funds, I don't know if we're going to be in a position to postpone it any further. So we're really hoping that we do get the funds so it can reduce some of our costs.
We'll probably change what the project looks like if we don't get the funding, but that would be about it.
Yep. The other big capital project is the Wicks Park performance structure. So I got that going today. We want to keep that moving along pretty quick so that if council can decide on a design, we get that bid out and get that on the docket for construction as well. The $50,000 we have for the Mount Baldhead radar building removal. Again, that's, you know, there's a lot of projects on here. So I'm going to do my best. I don't think I can do all these projects by myself. So we're just going to have to try to keep chipping away and see what we can get done here. That project, if we want to do that on our own and not try to go get funds from the Army, which I don't think we're going to, we'd probably spend more than $50,000 fighting them on it. I think I would probably maybe get Fleece and Vandenbrink involved on this, and we could get them to approve an agreement with them to maybe help us with that and get a contractor and get that removed, because I'm just not going to have the time capacity to do it on my own. The Mount Baldhead stairs repair, that's another one that I'm going to have Fleece and Vandenbrink probably help us with. They were the firm that worked with us when we did the construction, but we're going to have to draw up some specs on the repairs on this, so we're going to need some of their assistance as well. And that's a pretty critical project, because if we don't get the stairs fixed, we're going to be in the next season, and then we don't want to get in that position where we have to shut the stairs down and not use them. So what I plan on doing on those couple of projects, I'll be working with Fleece and get a couple proposals that I can bring to council to approve, and we can get, hopefully they'll have the resources to help us get moving on those. We can utilize some outside assistance. We can really make some progress on these projects. The City Hall building renovations, where we talked about the exterior, that's probably something that we'll try to do in-house here in terms of organizing. I got to get in touch with contractors and try to get some estimates, and getting the contractors is the most difficult thing, because everyone's really swamped with work right now. That one is probably not as critical. I mean, the City Hall might not look the greatest, but it's different than a road or something of that nature. City Hall technology, again, that's something we're going to work on in-house. Once I get my other position filled, I can delegate some of those responsibilities to that individual. The City Hall computer system, we've already got a quote on that. I'll be bringing that probably in the next couple meetings and get that approved. So we'll move on that one. The elections, Cindy's working on that with any necessary upgrades. She's getting equipment from the county, so we may not have to expend all those funds. Motor pool fund, that's the new sheriff's vehicle. That's something that I'll work with get the quotes through the sheriff's and the bids there, and we can get that going as well. Motor pool, we've already purchased the truck, so we got that one accomplished already. Again, we had some money budgeted. What we'd like to do probably in the fall is, or fall or early winter, is convene the council and let's start looking at our capital improvements for the next 5 years. Obviously, the next couple of years, I think we have things pretty well laid out. So those are kind of the projects that have been that have had received appropriations. The projects that are not necessarily part of the budget, but I'm working on, obviously, that's taking up a considerable amount of my time. I have a working group here at City Hall that's working on assisting with the interviews for hiring a new clerk. So we should be having a recommendation to council on that by next month, hopefully the first part of next month. We have a DPW position that's vacant that we're advertising as well. I have some project oversight with the fire dock. There were some contingencies that the council put into place for that, so I'm working on those. Cemetery agreement, which I have that in front of council for some discussion today. Harbor invasive species, that's on the docket today for some discussion. Park Street pathway study. That's something that wasn't budgeted, but we did have funds for that in the budget, and the council approved an agreement with Fleece and Vanderbrink to undertake that, and we should have some information from them by Labor Day, they're expecting. So that's ongoing. Just the ongoing COVID safety measures, that's on a daily basis, there's multiple things that are going on, that a lot of things that the council's not even aware of, so I'm working on that as well. We've developed some sinkholes on Water Street that we're trying to get addressed, working with Fleece and Vanderbrink. I think it has to do with the high water. That was unexpected, so we're trying to analyze those and figure out how much that's going to cost. We got the wellhead protection team meetings that I'm part of right now as well. Stormwater GIS issues that I got to get installed on our computers here with Fleece and Vanderbrink. The caustic litigation settlement, we're going to have the city attorneys present at the Monday meeting. So they'll be going, we'll be going into closed session so council can speak with the attorney to discuss that case. Been working with MDOT. In 2021, there's going to be construction on I-96, and it's going to close the exit 41 ramp. So that's going to be somewhat of an issue, and I'll be bringing some information to council on that. But I've been meeting with MDOT on that project in order to get enough information to present to council. So you can be prepared for that. Blue Star Bridge inspection report maintenance, that's stuff that I'm working with our Public Works Department and Douglas's to get that taken care of in the fall. And just which is about 95% of my time, is the general management of the daily operations of the city. So those are kind of, in a quick overview, those are the things that consume most of my time on this planet at this point in time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Chris.
I'm the one who asked Kirk to put this up, and I did it just really for kind of get an idea of what the feeling of the council is. Obviously, there are a couple of things that have come up that maybe would change how this list is laying out. One which would be the Park Street study that we're looking at, and there could be others in there. So I wanted to just have this list put out and look at what all is being contemplated in the next year or 2 years, all the things below it that we need, and see if anyone is interested in having any discussion about moving any of those parts around. That was the first part. The second part, actually, if you look at all of this and see what we're expecting Kirk to do, we have to find a way to prioritize these things. I like to discuss the invasive species. Garnet had grants and cemeteries. Everybody has their own things, and we're kind of, Kirk can't do it all. So I'd like to find some way that we can set up a procedure to have the council work together and prioritize some of these and try to give him some relief for that. Those are my two reasons.
All right. Well, in a sense, Chris, you know, we have been discussing these projects over the years, and I think they are prioritized to some degree, but I sense that you're saying we need to revisit that in a more rigorous way.
No, I'm saying if there's any interest. If there isn't, I'm fine with the way it is, but there's been some new things that have popped up. And if the, just kind of like I don't know, quick view, if people are fine with the way this goes, then we move forward with the way it is. That's fine. But I do think the second part, we need to find a way to prioritize all of these other projects that we agree on for Kirk to move forward with the time and the limitations that he has.
What do you think? Anyone? Barry? Hit your mute button.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. They were running a lawnmower outside. I had to mute. Yeah, you know, we're always shoehorning things in. I like the list the way it is, but one that's I would like to get shoehorned in somehow, because it could possibly do something next year on it, is Park Street. And we've all been driving out there. I drove out there the other night. I slowed down for a family that was on bicycles and strollers, and the traffic backed up 10 cars behind me. Well, that's just what it is. But then I had a citizen come in today, or call me today, and say when she was heading out Park Street, the impatient people behind the stroller went in the other lane and passed them, and might have had a head-on collision with somebody coming the other way. So there's so much on our plate, but nothing we're going to get done this year, but I'd like to shoehorn that in somewhere, so this winter we're maybe have a plan. And this all dovetails in with what Felice is already doing for us, updating the plan. But if you're going to shoehorn something in on this priority list, that would be my wish.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But so I think we have a good first step here to renew that study. And then this fall, I would say we should come up with a plan, perhaps that can be implemented in spring.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Kirk.
Mr. Mayor, that was the impetus for the movement forward on this, was the Park Street.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to bring that up to the priority list for sure. Kirk, your reaction?
Oh, that's fine. The council approved that agreement with Felice. And when you engage the engineers to do this stuff, that's much more helpful, because obviously we don't have an engineering department in-house. So anything that we can do to utilize those outside resources, again, they'll come back and make recommendations to council, and then we can decide how to tackle something like that. So that one's is very achievable. I don't see that really being difficult. It's the hard part right now is over, that we got the agreement approved, and now most of the work's on Felice and Vandenbrink's plate.
Good. Okay. Anything else? All right. Thanks, Chris.
Ken, Ken, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Mayor. Well, in essence, we have a priority list because these are budgeted items that have been approved and appropriated for. So one of the things we should do is, within this list of appropriated items, prioritize those first, in my estimation. If there are some that we want to postpone or delay and slide in Park Street in that, then that's the way I visualize the discussion going. I just thought I'd point that out because these were appropriated for, they're budgeted for, the money is there ready to be spent for those projects. Thanks.
Chris, sorry.
I agree.
Yeah, me too.
And Mr. Mayor, that would be, what I could do is I could just put this on the appropriated projects on a list, and I could send it out to council, and everybody could go through and rank them, and we could maybe get a quick consensus on that way and see if there's a agreement. That would be a pretty easy thing to accomplish.
That's fine.
One way to do it.
Yeah, we've done that before, and it seems to help. Mark?
And yeah, one more comment, and maybe John needs to chime in on this, is that there has been a little bit of talk about postponing the North Park Street project, and dedicate those funds more to South Park Street. I don't know if we may be too far down the road to turn back on that. So I think Kirk and John ought to let us know on that project. I mean, that one is ready to roll from a priority standpoint.
Well, Mark, let me jump in real quick. So the issue, granted, if we could do that, that project started, it was initiated because many of the residents out there wanted that road fixed. And I think we're to the point right now where we're either going to have to fix the road or we're going to have to turn it back to gravel. So I don't think this project was something that was more just like something nice to do. But I'll let John chime in to see if we wanted to even back out. I don't know if since the contract's been awarded, I'm not sure if we could.
John, Len Barry. John?
Yeah, we do have a contractor on board. There are some upfront costs that have already been expended, things like for them pulling bonds and insurances, things like that. You could theoretically cancel the project, but there would be some sunk costs into it at this point.
Would those costs include any penalties for postponing the project?
No, well, yes, if we pushed them to say 2021, there could be some cost adjustments for, the price of asphalt and everything else that goes into it. The other thing is the south side of Park Street, the south end of Park Street, we're not going to be to a point where we're ready to build that until next year anyway. So I think it makes a lot of sense to build the part that we've got ready this fall like we're planning, and just plan on, if that's council's desire, plan on doing the south side of Park Street the following year, 2021.
Great. Okay. Barry?
Thanks.
Yeah, I've had people ask me the same thing about pushing it out, but the historical perspective on that is people kind of miss that. That road's been there for 100 years or more. Cities maintained it all the time. But when we went to look at that, at one point, the property lines were just a mess. And it took us years and years to get the right-of-way established to even have that street there. And we've expended a lot of resources and money over the years to establish that is a city street. I would want to continue and get that done. And I'll do whatever it takes to do South Park Street next year.
Yeah, I'm not trying to push canceling the project. I think it was important to get Kirk and John's viewpoint on this as this discussion is permeating out in the community.
Jane?
We also have an excellent bid on this project. So I think to pass up that great bid would not be in the best interest of the city.
Yeah.
And it's a twofer.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Chris.
Thanks, guys. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay, so we'll move forward with the North Park Street and the South Park Street fix. It will definitely be on our agenda, aiming towards doing something concrete, so to speak, in spring. Thanks, Chris, for bringing up this list. I think it's good for us to look at it periodically. So let's move to the next item, which is the invasive species in Kalamazoo Harbor. For any of you who've been on your boat lately and tried to swing around the east side of the harbor, the milfoil have multiplied greatly. And I think if it wouldn't be for the Star of Saugatuck chopping its way through the mess on that side of the river or the harbor, it would be unnavigable and probably will be at some point not too far in the future. So with that, Kirk, do you want to give us some background on where we are with this?
Yep, I sure will. The council looked at this, or has been discussing this for some time. Obviously treating this material. A few meetings ago, we had one of the researchers who's doing their PhD on this very topic attend the meeting and give council some good information. Really, we got a couple things going on with this potential project. Treatment type and funding are the big issues. This material can be treated. We do have some problems when we treat this in this area because it's a river area and this milfoil spreads. We're getting most of it is probably coming from upriver when people cut it or boat. So no matter how you treat this, it's not going to be, you can't be looked at as you do a treatment and it's done forever. It's probably going to be in perpetuity. There's people in the community that have concerns about chemical treatment. Regardless if we think that the chemicals are safe or not safe, it's just that's the perception of some people don't want the chemicals dumped in the water. The issue, we've heard multiple conversations and opinions on this from professionals that the chemical treatments don't work as well in the rivers. And things of that nature. So at this point in time, if you were going to do a chemical treatment, I don't think you're probably going to get the results. And by the time you get the permitting and stuff like that, I think the summer's going to be over with. The best solution for something like this, if you really want a long-term solution, is to create a special assessment district with Douglas involved that covers the surrounding entire harbor area and the Douglas area. And then you have a funding source that you can treat this either by mechanical removal or by chemical treatment, because it's going to take, year after year after year, you're going to have to continue to treat this. If you wanted to look for some type of resolution quickly this year, if we could work and get a mechanical, someone to remove it mechanically, it's going to grow back, but by the time it grew back this summer, you're going to get the rest of the summer in place. When I did some research trying to find someone that did mechanical removal of this material, it was a little bit more difficult. But again, I didn't spend days and days on it. I just reached out and tried to find contractors, and I couldn't find any. And I only found, I think, one, maybe two that did mechanical removal, and they weren't real close by. So, I know that this is an issue, and it's right now, especially when you look out there, it looks really bad, and boats are having difficulty navigating through there. But the real solution to this is, and this is my advice to council, if you really want to solve this, is we need to really look at a special assessment. And if we were to do that and get that in place, then you're going to have a long-term fix, and you could have next season and the seasons after that, you can have this resolved. But if we don't put a special assessment in place to treat this, you're going to have to pull it out of the general fund. And as you see with all of our other projects, that's just a balancing act. I mean, you can do it, you can take it out of the general fund, but you got a lot of competing interest on there. So that my recommendation is to get a special assessment in place. I've talked to my my colleague over in Douglas, and he sees that because Douglas is on the other side of that that basin there, he's interested in that as well. So that's my recommendation, but I'm happy to go in any direction the council chooses.
Council? Barry?
There I am. Yeah, short-term solution to get us through this summer. We'll spend some money on that if we get a guy that can mechanically cut it, and then work through the winter to come up with a solution on a special assessment district, working hand in hand with Douglas, because we all share the same river. That makes sense to me.
Chris?
There, I think I did. And I think that was kind of what we had ended up with last time. I think Mark's suggestion was that the city pays for it the first time around. And if it's effective, then we look at the special assessment. I don't think we'd gone as far as to bring Douglas in on that. I think we had just kind of, at the time, discussed it just for our harbor. But I agree with Barry. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Kirk, I don't think we need any kind of permit to cut the weeds, correct?
Well, unfortunately, yes. Anytime, because what it is the bottom land. Anytime you're doing a mechanical or chemical treatment, you're treating on private property. So the chemical contractor or the mechanical contractor would need to get approval from the property owners. I'm not sure if the DEQ requires it for mechanical, but I think they do. But I'd have to find that out for sure. So I'll be honest with you, I think either way you go this summer, you're probably not going to be until somewhere if everything worked out perfectly and we devoted all of our resources to this, I don't think you're going to see anything till end of August. And that would be maybe, because I know there's a 30-day turnaround on one of the permits, right, at the state level. And based on COVID and where everybody is at the state level, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I just don't see it getting resolved anytime quickly.
Garnet?
Mr. Mayor, thanks. Hey, Kirk, did the Outdoor Discovery Center actually have, or would they be willing to visit with us about a possible solution? I mean, they basically said here they didn't know that the granular solution had moderate success, but did they have other thoughts and ideas along those. I mean, they work in this area. They're familiar with what's going on. I'd be curious to hear what they have to say, what their thoughts are for a solution.
Yes, I agree. We brought in the Outdoor Discovery Center to one of the harbor meetings, and they did some treatment upstream
Okay.
with limited success. So I agree with you. Rather than us trying to go out and reinvent the wheel, they're a great resource, and maybe we can even work out something with them to say, here's what we want to accomplish. They have a staff on board to do those things. Yeah, it's going to cost us some money, but the reality is right now, I just don't have the time trying to hire a clerk to do that stuff. So if I can farm that out and say, this is what we need, and we expend the funds to have them help us, I could get a proposal from them to say, we need your assistance, and put it before council. That would be, I think, at least get us moving in the right direction if we had an outside firm like that to help us.
Great.
Okay.
Perfect.
Can you pursue that? I mean, I think.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'll contact Ben at the ODC and say, this is, what services can you provide? I mean, that's kind of what they're there for, and they have, they're experts in the field. So if we can compensate them, that's going to benefit the city and allow me to continue and move forward with the projects you need done as
There you
well.
go.
All right. But, well, the other part of this then is a long-term solution. And I agree with those who feel that we should pursue the special assessment option and work over fall here to get some strategy in place so we don't repeat the mess that we have next year, that we have this year. Chris, did you have your hand up?
No, I was just agreeing with having the Outdoor Discovery get the proposal and have them do the work.
Okay. Anyone else?
Dan?
Yes, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah, that was going to be one of my comments. I appreciate Garnett bringing that up. Edgewater might be another resource if you want two opinions or two people who could pick up on this type of project and take it from start to finish for us. I think asking Kirk to get involved now with everything else he has and trying to get these agreements from all the riparian rights owner is just asking way too much. Another comment is, from what I recall from the presentation by Mr. Brooks from Michigan Tech we had here a few meetings ago, he wasn't really sold on the chemical treatment, but I think maybe we also have to ask about the actual, the other project at the other process that Mr. Brooks said worked was just pulling out the weeds like you do in your garden. And maybe that has to be explored as part of the ODC involvement. That would be probably closer to a permanent solution. It would be probably maybe more costly, but at least it could be looked at. And I don't know really how you could do it other than having people dive down there and do, garden work under the water, weeding the garden under the water. But anyways, those are just my comments. Thanks.
Okay, Holly, and then Jane.
To Mark's point, that's called the dash method, where you pull the weeds out. You have guy in the wetsuit. Kirk, you sort of mentioned that. Did we get any quotes for that? Have we talked to anybody that does that?
I have not, no. I was, Mr. Brooks was the first person that identified that. And I would reach out to him probably and see if he could get me in touch with some firms that do that type of service. And that's where I kind of think maybe if we got the ODC involved in this too, that they could sort of work in conjunction with that and figure out the best solution.
Sure.
There's also the issue too of one of the residents in town brought forward to me. At first I didn't think it was legitimate. I thought maybe it was just something that maybe someone found on the internet that wasn't reality. But it's those weevils where it's kind of it's not a chemical approach. It's actually a natural approach. And Mr. Brooks did mention that was something that that does have some promising capabilities too. So that might help at least with people concerned about the using chemicals. But the physical removal, if we could do that, I think you're going to see a real immediate response. Mechanical removal, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is a pretty massive growth, and mechanical removal of that is going to be a major project.
Yep.
I'm sure.
I agree.
Okay, so our thought is to bring in, consult with the conservatory, and then work over fall to establish a special assessment district to address that in 2022.
Yep.
And also, we could move forward over fall and winter of getting riparian agreement to treat the water, whether it's by herbicide or cutting or whatever. Couldn't we put that all into an agreement?
Yes, yeah, we have all
Yeah.
that ready to go. I have all the property owners on our side. We have the sample letter. So we could have that ready to go. If we work with the ODC and get a cost, kind of like a 3-year plan, then we can put into place the special assessment, which I think could be extremely minimal in terms of how it's spread out across the tax base. The people that I've talked to along the waterfront there, and again, I haven't talked to every single one of them, I've talked to a few, they were not opposed to contributing to take care of that problem. I think they would like to see it. They understand the value of having that removed for their property values and the enjoyment of their property, but they know they can't just do it on their own. So that's where the city resources come into play, where we set up the special assessment, we collect the taxes, we administer the agreements with the contractor. And then once we get that in place, then it's, let's say it's a 3-year special assessment or a 5-year, and it's over that course. Once we approve the contract, then you're not talking about this every year. It's just like putting the buoys in. We have a contractor that does it. They go in the spring, they come out in the fall. And what you see is you don't see the milfoil in the harbor anymore. So if you want to accomplish it, I think we're heading in the right direction.
Okay. Jane?
Wasn't the ODC in on that last discussion? I'm almost sure they were also a part of the discussion.
Yes.
And they had some drawbacks as well, if I remember correctly. Maybe they've come up with an answer by now, but I believe they were part of that discussion.
They were.
Mhm.
And they had some concerns about treating with the herbicide.
Right.
So, well, I think it pays to go back to them and get.
Yeah, they're a good resource.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, then let's move along to cemetery operations. Dirk, you want to give us a background on this?
Sure. I have I put together a discussion item report, so hopefully council was able to take a look at that. I don't want to just go through here and read the whole thing for you. Just to kind of skim it real quick, the legal authority, I kind of researched that and listed that out for you, so you have that in front of you. Act number 113 of Public Act 1915, that's the act that authorizes and directs the townships to care for and operate and maintain township cemeteries. Michigan cities are not legally required to own or operate cemeteries. However, Act 113 does permit a legislative body to contribute to the maintenance and care of the cemeteries. And in the past, the city of Saugatuck and Douglas have done this. Just a little bit of the background, I listed that in there as well, that the Saugatuck Township does have a dedicated voter-approved cemetery millage. It's worth noting that Saugatuck Township does have one of the lowest operating millage rates, which sort of coincides with the reason for the voter millage to operate the cemeteries. We did a analysis of all the townships in Allegan County so that the council would be able to kind of see basically budgets, dedicated fund balance, if there was a dedicated millage for any of those, and also kind of just a burial plot cost for a resident of that township and a non-resident rate. So you can see a pretty good analysis of every township in Allegan County. So wanted to have that just for your resources as well. Moving forward in the future, the one thing I think it's worth noting is that the cemetery maintenance cost isn't ever going to go away, and it's never going to get cheaper. That cost is always going to increase, mainly due to the cost of personnel. So right now, if the city is going to contribute and you're going to pull that out of the general fund, that amount's going to continue to grow year after year. And at some point, that's going to put a strain on your general fund with all the other projects you want to do. One of the things that I looked into was the possibility of forming a cemetery authority. And actually, it's not a very complex process. Public Act 215 allows for the Joint Cemetery Authority to be formed by 2 or more legislative bodies. It's not a vote of the people, it's just the action of the legislative bodies to form that board. However, if you want to have a funding mechanism, obviously that would be something that you would need to pitch that to the voters via a ballot proposal. The timing right now really couldn't be better because the township's cemetery millage expires at the end of this year. And this would be a great opportunity for the 3 communities to get together and say, hey, do we want to, number one, do you want to form a cemetery authority? And if you do we want to put down or put to the voters a ballot to fund and maintain the cemeteries in perpetuity, so we don't have to keep going through this process every few years. And we did some calculations, and what we estimate is that it probably would be about 1/10 of a mil if we did the entire tri-communities, which on average would be about $20 a year for a property owner for maintenance of the cemeteries. So I do have an agreement in place there, a proposed agreement that the attorney worked on with myself for the city council to consider. One thing that's in there under the payment category, and it's something that I've been trying to get addressed for some time, and I think this is probably the appropriate time to do it, is the city maintains a portion of property that's out in the township. Unfortunately, we don't have legal jurisdiction to expend those funds without an agreement. And if we don't have an agreement, I can't continue to do that. So this is one option that I put in there, that if the township wanted the city to continue to do that, we spend $4,000 a year maintaining that area. We could be discounted for that, and then that would come off the top of this, the requirements, the financial requirements of this agreement. Again, it's an option, and I wanted to leave it up to the township to decide. But I know the council just got this agreement last night. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them, or if you want to make any recommendations for changes, this is the time we could discuss them.
Council, any questions? Mark?
Yeah. From a historical perspective, per my recollection, maybe it's helpful if I can bring you up to how we got to where we are today, going back up until Saugatuck becoming a city. We're obviously part of the township, and we had cemetery access as a township. We were actually part of the township. We were a village, but part of the township. When we became a city, there was a division of assets. In my recollection, I was one of the committee persons who negotiated those division of assets. Was that we maintained access to the cemetery for a short period of time, and then we compensated the township for maintenance based on the millage that was in effect at the time. So it was a very small amount. After a period of time, there was some changes in township, as there is, with officials. They wanted to modernize the record keeping of the township. They felt there was a need to purchase some additional land in Douglas, adjacent to the Douglas Township, or Douglas Cemetery, which still is in Saugatuck Township, by the way. And they then came to us, and Douglas was still part of the township at the time. And they said, what you're paying us isn't enough. We're going to greatly increase that maintenance fund. And Burke was here at that time. And I think it was well in excess of $20,000 a year. And we broached the idea of a authority at the time, but there just wasn't interest at the township. Moving ahead, I think this is a good time with the new township board in place to at least open up that dialogue. And I think that it's, again, cemetery costs are never going to go away. I kind of think that I have family members more than any other family in the community buried between the two cemeteries. So, those are just my comments. That kind of brings us up to speed. We have to approve this agreement now. We need to, address that. That's for the current year. But I would encourage us to support Kirk to open this dialogue with the managers and the other communities to see where this goes.
I would agree. Any other comments? Kirk, Barry.
Yeah, I just thank you very much, Mark, for the historical perspective. And, I've been approached by members in the community when they saw that $2,000 price tag for us to get planted there. So they encouraged me to look into it. And I think this is a good direction to go. Again, Kirk has got the think tank going, and this may be the time for a authority. And it's like our fire authority. It's something we all share. And we should all share in the cost in a fair and equitable manner. So thank you, Kirk.
Kirk, does that give you enough direction to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I have the agreement. The agreement's ready to go, and I just wanted to make sure council was able to see it. And if you did have any concerns or changes or anything, the attorney has reviewed this, but I could put this on for Monday. Council could approve it. We'd send it to the township. I think that would be enough time for them to get it before their first meeting in August, and they could review it, make any comments or changes to it. And hopefully we will have a city clerk hired by then, because it does require the city clerk and the mayor to sign agreements. And right now we can't have the interim city clerk sign this agreement for obvious reasons.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Barry?
Yeah, help me out here, Kirk. When you have what is this, a resolution, services agreement, you've got in the body there, you have two different ways to pay it. There's a big or. We either pay it this way or we pay it this way. Is that how we want to send it to the township to get their ideas?
Yeah, well, again, that's why I talked to the attorney, and it says right in the agreement, it's at their sole discretion. So those are the options. We approve it. They pick which one they want, and then we're leaving it under their control. We're not telling them which way to go either way on that. So
thank you, Kirk.
you're welcome.
Okay, any other comments here? Then we'll move along to the 3-hour parking enforcement topic.
Yes, I'll give council just a little update on this. Currently, there is a 3-hour parking area in the downtown, which is, you can see on this map, hopefully on your screen, it's the kind of orange area. It's Butler Street and then part of Culver Street. And that's what we have in the books right now. In the past, I'd say probably, geez, for at least, maybe going on 10 years now, what we've done is enforce this ordinance on a call-in type basis. And when I say that, it means we don't go out and some communities might have a parking enforcement person that goes out and checks meters and things like that. Most small towns don't have the resources to do that, and we don't do that here in the city of Saugatuck. So what we have is if someone calls in and says, hey, there's been a car there or habitual offender, then I notify the sheriff deputies, and they go out, and if they can make note that the car's been there for 3 hours, then they issue a ticket. A lot of times the sheriff's department can contact the people because it might be a business owner or employee, and they get the people to move the car. So they try to take a proactive approach rather than just issuing tickets. The idea is to get the car out of there. And so they're usually successful in that regard. I have received some calls from a few business owners, and I think it's part of because of the pop-up patio, where retail feels that maybe the parking has been reduced. And then what happens is someone will park in those spaces for a very long period of time. The problem has always been, it's not so much that the retail or the restaurant owners are really that upset if a visitor comes into town and spends 4 hours in town dining and shopping. But the biggest problem that I've heard over the last many years is that it's individuals that may work downtown or do something where they're coming in and they're part of the infrastructure of the downtown business environment. And so pull up, they'll park, and they do their 8-hour shift, and the car's sitting there all day long, taking up parking for potential visitors. That's what seems to really be the issue with the retail owners that talk to me. They get upset about that. And that's why we instituted the process of on a complaint basis. You call in, we investigate it, we address the matter. What I'm hearing now from some retail business owners is that they don't want to have, they feel they shouldn't have to call in to report the person. They would like the sheriff's department to go out and do more proactive and just go out and enforce these vehicles that are in the parking for more than 3 hours. We can definitely do that. I've talked to the sheriff's department. Obviously, we can't mark tires and things like that because there was a legal challenge on that a few years ago, as you remember, and it was determined to be unconstitutional to do that. So we have to figure out other methods to identify the vehicle has been there for more than 3 hours. I'm a little hesitant to go out and just, even though it's within my authority to go out and just authorize the sheriff's department to enforce the ordinance, but I've been here long enough to know that things like this, I like to get the legislative body involved and get some input from you. Because obviously the complaints, if the complaints do come in, I'm going to get them and you're going to get them. So I wanted to put this on there to get some feedback from the policymakers and tell you the way we've been enforcing it. And I've received a request to enforce it a little bit different. And I'd like to get some direction from all of you.
Mr. Mayor.
Garnet? Yes.
So Kirk, how many complaints are we talking about? Roughly.
2 or 3.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's pretty minimal in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
You know, I'm not the world's greatest authority about what goes on 24/7 in Saugatuck, but I do a lot of driving downtown, and I'm not seeing parking problems. I mean, we have as many parking spaces available, I think, and people rotating in and out as we've ever had. So it tells me there are probably fewer people driving here, and we want to encourage more by allowing these pop-up patios and things that we're doing. I just don't see this as a huge problem right now that I would want to put something in place that would turn off visitors.
Mr. Mayor?
Barry had his hand up microseconds before yours. Barry?
It's all about timing. So, Kirk mentioned this, and I've observed it several times this summer about employees. Not going to mention any names, any restaurants or retail, but right before my eyes, a young person walked out to their car. They were wearing a mask, so they were and gloves, so they must have been working. They put something in their car, and then they walked across the street and went back to work. That person would have been there for 8 hours. So encouraging our businesses downtown to help us out, and please ask their employees, to park up on the hill or at the high school. And historically, we used to do this. We would award employees that parked at the high school, and I think we gave them a token or something every time they rode. It was the same 3 person that won the prize every year, but the schemes don't work. It's just got to be cooperation and paying attention from our shop owners.
Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, very well put. I agree with that.
Yeah. Jane and Holly?
More of a problem on the weekends than during the week. And God knows I live right here in the middle of the parking problem. So during the week doesn't seem to be a problem. Saugatuck is not as crowded during the week as normal. So this year it's not a problem during the week, but it is a huge problem on the weekend when everybody's employees park downtown. So, I mean, that's how it is. So I don't know if we can do anything about it. Probably not, but that's what's happening.
Holly?
Thank you, Mayor. I talked to Lucy's, Wicks Park, Amazwi, Land Sharks Coast today, and none of them were in favor of enforcing this.
Good information.
Good.
Okay, I think we're gonna let it stand, Kirk.
Okay, that's fine. Again, this is the policy we've been implementing, and this is why I like to get, when I'm potentially asked to make policy changes, I like to get the elected officials' input. I think it helps everyone.
Mayor,
Yes, Shelley.
I did get a suggestion from a Kindle owner that employees might be encouraged to park in the back of the city lot next to the SCA, which I thought was an interesting idea that we might think about.
Think so. Would,
Ken?
yeah,
Yeah, just one quick comment, kind of follow up with one of the council members who mentioned the cooperation from the business. I think several of them do that, especially the longtime businesses that have been here for many years, recognizing this issue. Point of interest, my grandson just turned 16 and just got his own car, and he works downtown at a restaurant. I says, now, where are you going to park? Because we actually have a family homestead on Mary Street he could use, but he says, nope, I was told not to park downtown, so I head to the Congregational Church. Well, they learn quick. I mean, he was right up front saying that's what his instructions were. So wanted to add that. I think a lot of our businesses are aware of that and do encourage our employees not to park in the immediate downtown area. I think a lot of it happens when people are late to work and they're just driving through town. They happen to see a spot and they grab it. But
yeah.
I don't know. It's the Saugatuck game. You just ride around trying to find a parking space.
Indeed. All right, let's move to the manager evaluation process. As you know, we've conducted an evaluation of our city manager every year. It's a city council responsibility, and we're rolling up on the time when we should be doing that again. I've been discussing the issue with Kirk, and he rightfully has a few concerns about the process that we've used, including the evaluation form that we have, and some ideas about how to move forward with that. So Kirk, could you just fill the rest of the council in on your concerns?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the first thing, that more importantly, is that I wanted to get some feedback in terms of when we do this, if we're going to do this, try to do it in an area where everyone's present and socially distanced. Obviously, the Open Meetings Act allows us to go into closed session, so it wouldn't be a public meeting. So it would be just as many council members and myself. So if we were in a large enough room, people might feel comfortable. But that would be one of the first questions: is if we do this in person, or are we going to try to do it via Zoom? And again, I would think probably we're not going to be able to probably accomplish this. I'd like to probably do this maybe in September, because we got to get through the summer and with these other projects and things. So not knowing what the state of affairs are going to look like in terms of the COVID issue in September, maybe people would feel more comfortable in a room. I don't think it'd be City Hall. It's a little bit too cramped here, but if we got a large enough room that we could spread out, that would be the first question. And then just what I wanted to do is be able to, the evaluation form we use we've been using for a long time. I think it's got some issues, but that's what I'd like to do in the evaluation process, to sit down with council and look at the form and discuss some issues with that and maybe come up with a new form. So it's kind of a two-step process. But the main thing really is just we need to know in order to move forward would council feel comfortable going into a larger room in September, or do we want to do it remotely?
Yeah. And, you know, this is the type of thing that's best done face-to-face. And so my feeling is that if we can find a large enough place that's allows us safe distancing, it would be I'd prefer to do it that way. Others?
Mr. Mayor,
Chris?
I agree. And I'm wondering, just looking at some of the venues around, maybe the SCA would be able to do something. But I think it should be done face to face. I agree with Kirk.
Yeah,
Barry,
agree.
Jane,
I also agree.
okay,
Hmm.
Mark,
Yeah, I'm good with
okay,
that.
Holly and Garnet. Okay. Okay, I think we'll go forward with that. We'll revise the form and get that okay from everybody to use a new and improved form, and then try to schedule a in-person meeting sometime in perhaps late September to do the actual evaluation. So the process typically for the new council members is that we distribute a form whereby you can indicate your level of satisfaction with a number of different criteria. That comes back, we consolidate that and put it back out for everybody's consideration, and then provide that to Kirk for him to review without names attached to the particular evaluation numbers. And then he has a chance to respond to that, and then we all get together and go over it. So we'll move forward with that process. Okay, let's go to public comment on any items. If anyone in the audience wishes to make a comment, please identify yourself. If you're on the phone, you'll have to do a *6 excuse me, *9 to be recognized, and then *6 to unmute yourself. I see
Miss Underwood.
Jane Underwood.
Yes, Jane.
Get attention. I'm
First of
sorry.
all, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank the council for taking up the issue of Park Street South. As I've said many times before to each one of you, driving on it is scary. There was almost a calamity this Tuesday morning at 10:50. I was on my way to the yacht club, and people don't seem to understand that double yellow line, you don't cross it. Luckily, the car pulled back and a family of 5 did not get creamed, but it could have happened right in front of me.
Yeah.
Talking about funding, cities like families, you have various sources of money that you can maybe pull around and pile up. Park Street South, I think if we could get this taken care of with a walking path by May of 2021, I would feel much more comfortable, and I'm sure many people traveling along there would also. We have many people walking, biking, pushing strollers who don't know the area. They're out in the street because there's no place for them to be. And it's really a scary situation. I'd also like to say I just spent earlier this afternoon a very pleasant hour over at Oval Beach. Chris, get the kids and get over there. The waves are just fine. The water's nice. But Kirk, there's an awful lot of debris up on the beach. I'm wondering if we have a cleaning system that we can do something on it. Again, thank you. Park Street South, I'll keep working on it.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Any other, anyone else wish to make a comment? Okay, hearing none, let's go to council comments. Holly?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I gave short shrift to Christian at Kendall because they do care about the parking issue. And again, the idea of maybe using that city lot next to the SCA, possibly with a permit. I think Christian may have talked to Kirk about that. I think that's a great idea. Christine Murphy also mentioned, from Wicks Park, also mentioned that parking at the high school, that we could do a better job of promoting that. And I don't know if maybe there's something we could do with the CVB just to let people know that that service is available. So that's, I know parking is a hot button issue. And I just want to make sure that people are heard.
Good. Yeah, I wonder if there's some system we could devise to give people who park up there, employees, a free ride on the interurban back into town. I don't know how we would handle that, but it might be an incentive then to have people park. Marna?
Yeah, along those lines, I've helped in the past a couple of summers with the parking for the school. And oftentimes earliest in the morning is when, as we referred to before, we've got some employees that are running late. And so they'll just pay the $5 to park in Chemical Bank or wherever. Maybe a solution might be to give them some coupons from time to time to park for free, because we always, that's just human nature. We're gonna like time it down to the minute before we've got to get to work. So maybe that might be something to consider, is to help the employees, at least cover their parking, on the weekends especially.
Sure.
Otherwise, I've heard nothing but great things from business owners and visitors alike about the pop-ups downtown. We have a couple rentals, and the folks just rave about the outdoor seating. They really love it. They feel very safe. They welcome that option. They're most inclined to sit outside rather than inside. So it's a very popular, and I think all the businesses have done such a great job of making them look so good. And I think it might be something we should consider, post-COVID, if you will. It's very quaint.
Yeah, I agree. It really has gone well. Barry?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just would, I kind of look at the diverse views and opinions we have in town, and now we have some new candidates that have turned in a petition for city council, and we've got 13 meetings before the election, and there's 6 minutes, so there's 78 minutes left. There's a lot of time to talk about what the city does and what people's opinions are, and a chance to meet our new candidates. And it's always helpful, I think, for them to watch our meetings, see how things happen during our meetings. And some of the names I've heard, I don't know who they are, and I'd love to meet them. I'd like to hear what their opinions are, and I would really like to encourage them to participate in our meetings and speak during public comment.
Very good. Okay, Chris?
I'd also like to give a good shout out to all the restaurant people that have done the pop-ups. They're cute, they're touristy. You just want to kind of go sit down in them and just watch the world go by. I also want to compliment the businesses and the restaurants. There has been an obvious change in people wearing masks, and it's good. You drive downtown now, and masks are either on or hanging from an ear. And that wasn't that way 3 weeks ago. So I really want to give them a big hand for implementing the masks on, no service off. Thank you.
Absolutely. And employees are wearing masks almost 100%. That's great. Mark?
Yeah, I throw out some kudos to our business owners, our business operators, our restaurateurs. We've got some of the best in the business anywhere here in Saugatuck. You put our restaurant owners, give them a challenge. They've been around a while. They know how to run a business, and they perform and react and adapt. So I think we should be, we're fortunate to have business, and not just the restaurant owners, the retailers also. So kudos to all those guys, and I hope we can continue through the summer and get them into the fall. And so thanks.
Yeah. Good words. Jane? Nope, you're not muted. I mean, you're muted. You're not unmuted.
I'm unmuted. Okay, thank you. I want to thank Kurt for the information on the cemetery operations. I think this has been kind of hanging, and Garnett's been real insistent that we need to talk about it. So I'm grateful for all the background information, and I'd like to see a cemetery authority moving forward. I think that's a good idea. So thank you.
Okay. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Jane moves to adjourn, second.
Second.
Second by Garnett. This is a roll call vote. Cindy?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to do the roll call. Ms. Osmond had to get to another meeting, so I will, let me attempt this here. Trester,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Becken,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
or Plank.
Yes.
We are adjourned. See you all Monday. And thank you.